I told my daughter she had to cancel her Christmas ski trip with her father. I told her she had a duty to stay home and support my grieving husband. When she told me he wasn't her real father, I grounded her and took everything away. I thought I was teaching her about family loyalty. Instead, I taught her how to leave. She abandoned us, and now, in the silence of my empty house, I'm forced to face the fact that I may have destroyed my own family forever. My name is Sarah, I am 32 years old, and I am sitting in a house that no longer feels like a home. It is a museum of a life I thought I had built, a silent testament to a family that shattered under the weight of a grief I tried to manage, but only made monstrous. It's a complicated story, one where my intentions and the devastating consequences are two entirely different, warring truths. My marriage to my current husband, Tom, began 5 years ago. He was 34, a kind, gentle man whose eyes held a deep, permanent sadness. His first wife, the love of his life, had been taken by a sudden illness in December of 2012, leaving him a widower with a 5-year-old son, Brad. My own first marriage had ended a year later, in 2013, a far less tragic but still painful divorce that left me with my daughter, Haley, who is now 15. She always maintained a close, loving bond with her biological father, whom I'll call DSK, a fact I never once tried to interfere with. When I met Tom in 2016, we were two wounded people finding solace in each other's company. We dated for 2 years, moving slowly, carefully, aware of the fragile hearts of our children. Blending our families was not a seamless fairy tale. It was a delicate, often clumsy process of navigating boundaries, insecurities, and the ghosts of our past lives. But eventually, a new kind of normal began to take shape. Brad, a sweet and remarkably resilient boy, started calling me Mom on his own one day. It was a quiet, unprompted moment in the kitchen while I was making pancakes, and it made my heart ache with a fierce, protective love. Haley, in turn, found a comfortable rhythm with Tom and Brad. Tom was a fantastic stepfather. He never tried to replace DCK, but he treated Haley with the unwavering affection and support of a father. He taught her how to change a tire, helped her with her calculus homework, and was always in the front row for her soccer games. She used to tell me she felt safe with him, that he was the calm in our often chaotic household. Brad was a gift. He was polite, whip-smart, and had a goofy sense of humor that could coax a smile out of anyone. He and Haley, despite the typical sibling squabbles, forged a genuine bond. Every Christmas, our house would transform into Brad's personal winter wonderland. He was the master of ceremonies, blasting holiday music, orchestrating the decorating of the tree, and leading the annual cookie competition. He and Haley would spend hours at the kitchen table, armed with frosting and sprinkles, their friendly rivalry a source of immense joy for all of us. For Tom, December was always a difficult month, a yearly pilgrimage back to the raw wound of his first wife's death. But having Brad and then Haley made the season bearable again. We built new traditions around the old ones, creating a tapestry of memories that was uniquely ours. For a while, our little blended family felt unbreakable, solid. That feeling of solidity was obliterated last April. The phone call came on a Tuesday night. Brad was walking home from a friend's house, just a few blocks away. A drunk driver, speeding and reckless, ran a red light. Brad never made it to our front door. He was killed instantly. The world didn't just stop. It fractured into a million unrecognizable pieces. A thick, suffocating fog descended upon our home. A silence so profound it felt like a physical presence. Tom didn't just break. He disintegrated. For weeks, he was a ghost haunting the master bedroom, a specter of the man I had married. I was the one left to navigate the waking nightmare. I planned the funeral, a task so horrific I had to compartmentalize my own grief into a tiny, locked box in the back of my mind. I dealt with the police. The lawyers, pushing with a cold fury to ensure the driver who had stolen our boy would face justice. I kept the house running on autopilot. I made sure Haley got to school, that the bills were paid, that there was food on the table. But I was operating in a vacuum. Tom was just gone. He eventually started therapy, but it was like trying to fill an ocean with a teaspoon. Emotionally, he had checked out, and I was the lone pillar holding up the collapsing roof of our lives. Haley was a silent ship in our sea of grief. I saw the tremor in her hands, the dark circles under her eyes. She was just as shaken as we were, and I tried my best to be her anchor. For what would have been Brad's birthday in the summer, we put together a slideshow of his life. Haley spent hours scanning old photos, her face a mask of concentration. She helped me bake his favorite chocolate cake and insisted on printing and framing a few of her favorite pictures of him, which still hang in our living room. She never once acted like Brad was anything less than her brother, a vital part of our family. That is, until the fight that started it all. About a month ago, Haley came to me with news. DCK had invited her on a Christmas ski trip, a week-long getaway to a rented cabin in the mountains. My response was an immediate and unequivocal no. I reminded her, gently at first, of the heavy significance of December for Tom. It was the month his first wife died, and now, it would be the first Christmas he would have to endure without his only child, the boy who had been the living, breathing embodiment of the holiday for him. "We are the only family he has left, Haley," I explained. "It is critically important that we are all here, together, this year." She was clearly disappointed, her shoulders slumping, but she didn't argue. She just nodded, mumbled, "Okay," and let the subject drop. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. A few days ago, the topic resurfaced over dinner, an ambush I didn't see coming. "Dad booked the cabin," she announced, her tone a little too casual. "He already bought the lift passes, and everything. I really want to go. It sounds fun, you know? Not depressing. Like it is here." The word depressing landed like a physical blow. I reiterated my position, my voice firmer this time. "You are not going, Haley. We are staying home. We are going to honor Brad's memory, we are going to keep our traditions alive, and we are going to be a family." The argument escalated quickly. She accused me of being unfair, of trapping her. I told her that this Christmas wasn't about having fun. It was about sacrifice, about being there for the family that needed her. Tom, who had been a silent, hollowed-out presence at the table, finally spoke. His voice was a weary rasp. "Sarah, maybe we should just let her go. If it will make her happy." I ignored him. He wasn't thinking clearly. He was just trying to avoid conflict, to retreat back into the safety of his grief. I turned back to Haley, my voice softening, pleading. "Come on, sweetie. This will be our first Christmas, as just the three of us. We can make those cookies Brad loved, the ones with the ridiculous amount of sprinkles. Remember how you two used to fight over the last gingerbread man?" That was the moment she snapped. Her face, which had been pinched with frustration, hardened into something cold and unrecognizable. "He's not even my real brother," she spat, her voice ringing with a cruelty that stole the air from my lungs. "And your husband is not my real family. I want to spend Christmas with my real dad." She shoved her chair back from the table and stormed out of the room. I sat there, stunned into silence, the echo of her words hanging in the air like poison. After a few minutes of composing myself, I followed her to her room. She was on her bed, her phone out, fingers flying across the screen. I asked her if she had any comprehension of how monstrous her comment was. It wasn't just the words themselves, but the timing, the audience. "Your stepfather just buried his son," I said, my voice trembling with a rage I was struggling to contain. "And you looked him in the eye and told him he wasn't your family." I laid down the law. "If you want to even think about going on that trip, you will go downstairs right now, and you will apologize to Tom." She looked up from her phone, her eyes defiant and cold. I didn't say anything that wasn't true. That was it. The last thread of my patience snapped.
"Fine," I said.
"You're staying home. For Christmas, for New Year's. The trip is canceled." I confiscated her phone, her iPad, her laptop. "And that sleepover with your friends on New Year's Eve? Also canceled." "This is ridiculous," she screamed. "You're just a control freak." "This isn't about control, Haley," I shot back. "It's about basic human decency. And if you can't show a shred of it to the man who has helped raise you for the last 7 years, then you can sit in this room and think about the consequences." A few hours later, my phone rang. It was DCK. He accused me of punishing Haley for her honesty, for being a teenager. He said I was being unreasonable, that Haley felt trapped in a miserable house and just needed an escape. "This isn't about what's fun, DCK," I told him, my voice tight. "This is about a man who is drowning in grief, who just had to listen to the only child left in his life tell him he doesn't count as family." He accused me of blowing things out of proportion, of alienating our daughter. I hung up on him. The days that followed were a cold war. Haley was a sullen ghost in our house, emerging from her room only for meals, her silence a weapon. Tom retreated even further into himself, his pain a palpable presence in every room. He told me again to just let her go, that it wasn't worth it. But I refused. I am not rewarding that kind of behavior, I told him. She crossed a line. What she said was meant to hurt you, and it did. I can see it on your face every time you look at her. I will not ignore that. I believed I was doing the right thing, that I was teaching her a hard but necessary lesson about empathy and respect. I had no idea I was simply pushing her further away, right into the arms of the person who was waiting to catch her. The explosion I had been bracing for finally came last Friday night. Around 7 o'clock, the doorbell rang. It was DCK, his face set in a grim, determined expression. He was here, he announced, to pick up Haley for the Christmas trip. Standing just behind him, her coat on and a fully packed duffel bag in her hand, was my daughter. She had her earbuds in, her gaze fixed on some distant point over my shoulder, refusing to even look at me. "What do you think you're doing?" I asked her, but it was DCK who answered. "She's coming with me," he said, his voice laced with a challenge. "This isn't up for debate anymore." I stood my ground. "She is not going anywhere until she apologizes to my husband." "She doesn't need to apologize for telling the truth," he retorted, and took a step towards my doorway. I blocked his path, my heart hammering against my ribs. "You set one foot in this house without my permission, and I will call the police." The argument spilled out onto the front porch, our angry voices echoing in the cold night air. DSK unleashed a torrent of accusations. I was emotionally abusive, unstable, trying to brainwash Haley into forgetting her real family. When Tom heard the shouting, he came downstairs. He looked exhausted, broken. He simply told DSK to leave our property and then retreated back upstairs, unable to stomach the confrontation. His withdrawal only seemed to fuel DCK's fire. "She's 15, he yelled. "She's old enough to choose. That's not how our custody agreement works, and you know it." I shouted back. He threatened me with lawyers, with a fight for primary custody, claiming I was mentally unfit. I slammed the door in his face, my entire body shaking. The whole ugly scene, every shouted threat and accusation, was perfectly captured by our Ring doorbell camera. I saved the footage immediately. Our custody agreement is clear. I have primary physical custody. Christmas was my year. DCK knew this. He was simply trying to leverage our family's tragedy and my daughter's teenage rebellion to get what he wanted. The weekend was a tense, miserable affair. Then, on Sunday night, I received an email from Haley's school counselor requesting an urgent meeting. Haley had gone to them, claiming she felt unsafe and emotionally unheard at home. I was stunned. This was a coordinated attack. Later that evening, a Google Doc appeared in my inbox from Haley. The title was "Why I Should Live with My Dad." It was a laundry list of my failures as a mother. I prioritized my husband's feelings over hers. She felt suffocated by our grief. My husband was not her family, and keeping her from her father was a form of emotional punishment. The document ended with a vow to petition the court to change the custody agreement. My husband, in the meantime, had completely shut down. He was a stranger in our home, eating his meals alone in the den, avoiding any shared spaces. He barely spoke to me. I knew he didn't agree with my methods. He had wanted me to let it go. And now, the chasm between us was growing wider with every silent, agonizing day. I was the one holding the line, I told myself. Someone had to teach Haley that cruelty has consequences. Someone had to show her that you don't get to detonate a bomb in the heart of a grieving man and then skip off on a ski vacation. The end came faster than I could have ever imagined. Just before Christmas, DCK filed an emergency custody petition. He cited my emotional instability and the mental distress I was causing Haley. He had a written statement from her and a supporting letter from her school counselor. His argument was simple and devastatingly effective. I was forcing my daughter to remain in a toxic, grieving household against her will. By the time we had a hearing, the judge's mind was already made up. He granted a temporary custody modification. Haley would live with her father, full-time, effective immediately. She left the next day. Her bags had been packed for a week. She didn't say goodbye to Tom. She offered me a single, fleeting glance before walking out the door. She went on the ski trip. I saw the photos online, a stream of bright, happy images that felt like a personal affront. DCK, his new wife, their extended family, all in matching ski jackets, grinning for selfies against a backdrop of pristine snow. And there was Haley, in the center of it all, a radiant smile on her face. A smile I hadn't seen in months. The silence she left behind has been deafening. My husband is a shell. When I tried to talk to him about Haley leaving, his response was a quiet, damning, "You knew this was coming." He doesn't say the words, but I feel the accusation in every moment of our shared silence. He thinks I pushed her away. He thinks my rigid, unyielding stance is what broke us. He doesn't see the months I spent trying to hold us all together. He only sees the empty chair at our dinner table. He only sees what's missing. And now so do I. I was trying to teach my daughter about love, about what it means to show up when life is hard and ugly. I was trying to show her that family is more than just blood. It's about loyalty, about presence, about standing by the people who have stood by you. Instead, all I taught her was that she could walk away. And that in doing so, she would be celebrated. I have lost everything. My daughter is gone, in every way that matters. My marriage is a hollowed-out ruin. The family I fought so hard to protect is nothing but a collection of painful memories. I still believe I was right to ask for empathy, for a single act of compassion for my daughter.
But it no longer matters what I believe.
Because in the end, my quest to keep my family together is the very thing that tore it apart.